Okay, so let us start our discussion on ratio. But before that, let us try to understand the fundamental idea of why do I need a ratio at all? What is the importance of ratio? Now, we all do comparison in our day-to-day lives. Everybody does comparison. In fact, anything that you do, comparison is a necessary mental process that we all go through. So let us look at the most common method of comparison, and that is taking the difference. So difference is simply subtracting one quantity from the other. So now if I take a common example of comparison, it would be comparing two people's heights. For example, we say that John's height is 150 centimeter and Rahim's height is 140 centimeter. So now you have two numbers, two heights, that of John's, which is 150, and that of Rahim, which is 140. Just by looking at these two numbers, we conclude because John's height is more, therefore John is longer than Rahim. John's height is more than Rahim. This is a comparison. However, if I want to put a number, how much longer is he? Right? Then what we do is we simply take a subtraction. So we do 150 minus 140, which gives me 10 centimeter. So what do we say is John is longer by 10 centimeter as compared to Rahim. So this is the difference method. Now let us observe a few points about this difference method. So the difference or the subtraction method for comparison, it is quite okay in our day-to-day lives when the two quantities that we are comparing, right, the differences are not very huge. It means the difference results in small numbers. So which means that we should ask and think that what would happen if we want to compare a very small number with a very big number. So in terms of algebra, I want to do x minus y, where x is a number which is very small. Oh no, x is a very big number, it could be a small number. I'm just assuming that we are subtracting a smaller number from a larger number to get positive results. So x is a very, very huge number and y is a small number. So the result, let us say it's another number z. Now this z will be a huge number because we are subtracting a very small number from it. So essentially what happens is we then try dealing with huge numbers, big numbers. So that, raises another question. Can we compare such that we have smaller numbers to deal in this type of situations? So we are just trying to kind of find out if there is a way of comparison wherein we may not have to deal with huge numbers for after the comparison is done. So if we think in a difference, so what is the other way of taking a difference? Now if you know division is nothing but repeated subtraction. So we may try division, and therefore the second method that we can use to compare quantities is by dividing. So it is another method to compare two quantities. Now let us take straight away an example. So we know that the cost of a car is 250k or 2,50,000 rupees, and that of a motorbike is just 50,000. Now if I compare this, that is the cost of a car, and that of a bike by division. So what I am doing is putting simply the price of car, I am taking it as a numerator, and the price of motorbike is as a denominator. We just divide the price of one by the other. In this case, this is the price of a car and this is the price of our bike. So the resulting number, when we simplify this, we get 5:1 or 5 by 1. So what this means is the cost of a car is 5 times the cost of a bike. Simply I have found out a way in which I have represented the price of one in terms of the price of other. It simply means that the cost of a car is 5 times the cost of a bike. First quantity, second quantity. And now if you see here, this leads to a smaller number as compared to the difference method, which means that we just have to deal with numbers 5 and 1 if I were to take difference. So in that case we would have done 250,000 minus 50,000, and this would have led to 200,000. So as you can see, this is a big number, whereas here we are simply dealing with 5 and 1. So this is a straight away method in which we compare by division and which leads to simpler numbers. Now we will use this as a basis to understand what a ratio is in our next session.